This is Josh Bycer from GameWisdom.com. I hope you enjoyed this Critical Thought, your daily discussion on game design. Welcome to today's Critical Thought. As always, thank you to now 965 subscribers here on YouTube. Hope everyone's enjoying the content. If you are, be sure to like and subscribe. As you can see, we are getting up there to 1,000. Before we start today's Critical Thought, I have a special prop to show. This has nothing to do with today's Critical Thought, by the way, but I was featured, if I can get it just right, in my local community paper today for a presentation I'll be doing in March. This is going to be at my library in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, and this is going to be the first of hopefully many presentations to come, so I'm really excited about that. Another little bit of news, I would want to ask you folks if you'd like to see more Darkest Dungeon play in between all the other stuff that I'm doing here. I saw that the last play got over 100 views, so I figure maybe I'll record another one and see what happens. But with all that said, let's get to today's topic, and we're returning to difficulty. This time I want to talk about another holy grail or master class example of difficulty design in games, and I'm not even sure what would be the exact title that I would give this. I've been saying customizable difficulty, but it could even be either adjustable, moldable, sculptable, something like that. If you guys like a specific term, let me know. But the point of this kind of difficulty is that I'm going to refer to it as, I'm going to say sculptable for this topic. And sculptable difficulty essentially is where the player is given the ability to control or affect the difficulty at will, changing the game to make it easier or harder, and getting specific extrinsic rewards for it. And that's the big point. Because one of the things that we've seen, especially with more modern examples of games, is the ability to adjust difficulty at any time. You know, pause the game, go from normal to easy, easy to hard, whatever. That's also why I didn't really want to say that it's considered adjustable. There aren't as many examples of this kind of sculptable difficulty because it is a very high, complex kind of design. But what it does, it allows the player again to fine-tune the difficulty in unique or specific ways beyond just stats. This isn't just saying, if enemies go from having 100% health to 300% health. But it's a way of impacting the game while giving the player the means of being rewarded for doing so. And that's another major part, but we'll talk about that in a second. When it comes to games that are built around sculptable difficulty, a few come to mind. One being one of my all-time favorite games, The World Ends With You. And if you watched Game Wisdom Live lately, you probably heard me talk about it. And again, I could easily spend an entire critical thought on that game alone. But what makes The World Ends With You so interesting about its difficulty is how the player can control it and then sculpt it to how, essentially, their preference. And there's three ways of doing it. The first is how many fights they want to go at in a row. Because the enemies are represented by icons on the field, you can choose how many you want to fight at any given time. It could be one, you could take 5 or 6, it all depends. And each essentially chain fight you do will adjust the rewards or give you more experience and gold or whatever. But the risk is your health bar is preserved across all those fights. So if you get to fight 5 of 8 and then you die, you have to start back at the first fight again. The second way the game adjusts things is with difficulty, and there are different difficulty settings you can set anytime from the game menu. I'm really dry today, so I'm going to be taking a few extra drinks. And the difficulty affects the health and damage outputs of the enemy. So playing on easy, you can pretty much fumble your way through. On the hardest setting, you gotta be on point. And this determines the possible items that can be dropped. Each enemy has different tiers of items depending upon the difficulty. So they'll have an easy drop, a normal drop, a hard drop, and then a uber difficulty drop. And then the final way you control the difficulty is by lowering your max health. Each time you lower it by 1 tick, it raises the drop rate up higher. And here's the thing, you need to do this if you want to have any chance of getting the best items in the game. because I was watching, and there are enemies that have like super rare loot that literally has like a 0.00025 chance of dropping if you don't modify your health. And all these factors combined allow the player to really adjust the difficulty to how they want it, and at the same time get rewarded for it. So they can go to an easier section, make it harder to get better items, better experience, better gear, and then go back to a harder section, lower it down, but use these higher tier items that they found to give them an easier time. And it's just a brilliant form of sculpting the difficulty towards their needs or their preference. Another really good example, and I think probably takes it even a little bit higher, would be Bastion, which at some point, if I can ever have the time, we'll be doing a Let's Play or Let's Break on that. And what Bastion does is, one of the buildings that you unlock allows you to put these totems down. I think it's a total of 8. And each totem makes the game harder in some way, shape, or form. Again, it's not just about giving enemies more health or making them do more damage, but some more interesting ways. For instance, one was when you kill an enemy, when they die, they drop bombs upon death. So if you're still standing there after they die, you'll take additional damage. Another was if an enemy hits you, I think it like slows down your movement for half a second. Enemies react faster. Maybe your weapons take longer to charge. That last one may not be in the game, but you get the idea. It's not just about stats, it's about adjusting the mechanics or the rules. And Bastion, on its like normal setting without any totems, is not that hard of a game. If you know what you're doing, you should be able to get through it pretty easily. But Bastion with all 8 modifiers on is another beast entirely. And the game rewards you with more experience and like resources or whatever to make it easier for you to level up and become more powerful faster. And that, my friends, is a really good example of sculptable difficulty. And again, it pretty much puts it in the player's hands. They're free to adjust it however they see fit. But like I said, it's not easy to do. Drink time. The problem is, like I said, it's not just about stats. You need to think of ways to make your game creatively more difficult. And it has to be available for the player to adjust. That's kind of one of the weird things about The World Ends With You and Bastion. In The World Ends With You, you can adjust the difficulty as long as you're not in combat at any time during play. In Bastion, you can only adjust the difficulty back at the hub or the titled Bastion. But you need to allow the player to control it as frequently as they can. It shouldn't be something that you adjust and then you can't change it for an hour or 2 hours of play. Another point, and what makes it even harder, is that there has to be an extrinsic reward for it. Meaning that it can't just be for achievements or for a high score. There has to be some kind of motivation in-game to do it. In Diablo 3, for instance, you have all the different difficulties, and the loot drop or the find quality goes up, you get more gold, you get more experience. It makes it so you can progress quicker. But you can't just do it for an achievement, because then there's no real point in it. Now, another aspect of sculptable difficulty, again, is the fact that you have to come up with these different modifiers. And the game has to be different. I think that's the main point here. If I'm playing like Bastion, again, with 1 totem, 2 totems, or 8 totems, the game is different how I play it. The World Ends With You, it's more about making it more challenging, but it's still changing how you're going to go through the game. You have to be more on, or better skill, to play the game at its highest difficulty. If you're just raising stats, like I said, it doesn't really make the sculptable difficulty work. This is the problem I have with Diablo 3. Once you get to the Torment levels, the game really isn't changing. It's simply just affecting stats. So by the time you get to like Torment 3, Torment 4, even less than that, you've pretty much seen it all. And once you have one of your sets done, especially if it's the ancient variant, there's just nothing more to progress. What they should do with Diablo 3 is, as you go up in Torments, maybe unlock new enemy types, new modifiers, even have literally new items that maybe only show up past Torment 6 or Torment 4, whatever. Again, as long as the game is changing and growing as you adjust it or sculpt it, it's going to make it more interesting and allow players to feel like they're really growing and making it their own. And the beauty of sculptable difficulty, again, is similar to subjective, is that it's in the player's hands. They can play the game at the normal setting and get through it. If someone's having trouble, they can tweak it down and they understand the risk or the penalties of it. Or they can shoot it up and just see, how far they're willing to go and get a reward accordingly. For instance, in Payday 2, one of the things I wanted to see, which I don't think they're ever going to do, is make it easier, give you more rewards for playing on 1 down, mayhem, and higher up difficulties. But that is a different beast at this point, and at this point, 10 minutes in, we don't have the time to talk about it. Another really good example of adjustable difficulty, which I need to take a drink, is the... Oh no, I have completely blocked out, but don't worry, through the magic of cutting this video, you'll get my answer in 3, 2, 1. And with the magic of editing, the game that I was thinking of was Kid Icarus Uprising. This is a really great game for the 3DS, although it's not really lefty friendly, but it's another great example of this kind of sculptable difficulty. And it's actually one of the easiest games to see how this works. And what they do is they had a literal difficulty scale that gets adjusted depending upon how much you spend on the game's currency or hearts. So what they do is, let's say this is 3 on a scale of 0 to 10. 3 is the baseline. This is what's considered normal for the game. This is what they expect anyone to kind of play the game as. If someone's having trouble, they can use their hearts to adjust it back this way to get down to 0. At 0, the game is a cakewalk. You can really just, fumble your way through it. You're going to have extra health. Enemies will barely touch you. But if you want to make things harder, it's going to cost you more. So you go 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then 10 all the way at the end. And also keep in mind, it's going to cost you more to make the game harder than it is to make it easier. And that is, of course, that was intentionally done. Because they don't want to make it harder for you to make it easier, which makes no sense from a sentence structure standpoint. If someone's having trouble, they want to make it as easy as possible for them to get through the game. But they know that the players who want to make it harder, they want to work for it. And as you go up 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, the enemies get harder, they add in new attack patterns, and specific areas become unlocked in some levels. There are difficulty gates that will only open if you're playing the game at that difficulty or higher. So I think on the first level there may be a difficulty gate at difficulty modifier 6. And then what they do in Kid Icarus, which is a brilliant idea if I do say so myself for them, is that all the gear or the weapons that you can equip in the game have a rarity system or a quality system like you would see in a Diablo or an ARPG. And the higher that you play the game, the higher quality gear you're going to find to compensate. So what you can do essentially is, let's say I'm on level 4 and it's kicking my butt. I can't beat this. What I can do is go back to level 2, raise the difficulty up, get higher quality gear, go back to level 4, either keep it on normal or lower it down further, and use my higher gear to essentially overpower the level. And again, this can be adjusted anytime as long as you are not in the level. And I want to say this last part, but I don't remember it completely, but I think if you die, you are given the chance to bump the scale back. So let's say I am at 8 and I die, I have a chance to maybe go down to 6 or 4 or whatever. This is a similar system seen in the Smash Brothers, the one for the Wii U, and I would like to say the one for the Wii, but I don't remember that off the top of my head. But it's not as pronounced. It affects the AI and makes the levels harder, but it's not really changing how you play the game in a sense. Not in the same way as War with You or Bastion. Now, besides Supergiant's other game, Transistor, for those of you watching, do you have any other good examples of this kind of sculptable difficulty or adjustable? If you can think of a fancy title or definition or term, please let me know as well, because that kind of stuff I always have trouble with coming up with great names for things. But we're going to wrap things up here. As always, once again, thank you so much for watching. I hope everyone is enjoying the content, and be sure to like and subscribe as we are getting really close. I am certainly excited about my name in the paper here. Let me get a little bit closer if you can make it out. And I'll have more information as more of these presentations open up. And if you have any ideas for places I can try and contact for me to show up one day, please let me know as well. But once again, we'll end things here. As always, I'm Josh Bycer from GameWisdom.com, where we examine the art and science of games. This has been today's Critical Thought. Be sure to check back tomorrow for more great content here and on GameWisdom.com. And as a surprise final announcement, we're going to be doing another live talk this Saturday at around 3:30 on Twitch. A friend of mine, Rob from Indie Voyage, will be talking to us, and I didn't really expect to do another live one so soon, but that will be this Saturday, and we may have more in the future. But again, that's going to do it. Have a great rest of Friday night, and I'll catch you all tomorrow. Take care. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and of course share with your friends. It always helps out. For daily posts on all manner of game design and industry topics, check out game-wisdom.com. To support the site and everything that I do, be sure to check out the Patreon campaign. If we can hit goals, it will mean more content for everyone to enjoy, and I'll be able to support myself and my household. If you want to follow me, you can find me on Twitter at GWBycer for updates throughout the day and random thoughts from me. And lastly, you can find me on Twitch right over there at GWBycer for daily streams most nights around 10 Eastern. Thanks again for watching the video, and be sure to check out more great content coming to the Game Wisdom channel real soon.